Howdy folks, welcome to 20th Century Adventures. I'm Nathan Logston, and this evening we're going to go on a 1920s style raccoon hunt. Now raccoon hunting was not just for sport in this period, although it was becoming a popular sport even in the late 19th century. But also in rural areas, raccoon hunting was a necessary part of life. It was a way of protecting the homestead. Raccoons can be very destructive. They can do a lot of damage in a short amount of time, and they're one of the few animals that will kill for fun. So when they get into the chicken coop, they can decimate your entire chicken population in one night. So raccoons on a varmint level have to be hunted in this period especially, and it was also a way to get out, get some camaraderie, go out with other hunters. A lot of times there would be a group that would go together. Oftentimes somebody had dogs. Dogs were expensive even in that period. You know, nowadays hunting dogs can be extremely expensive. They were probably even more so at that time. I've seen a lot of examples of raccoon dogs being sold for anywhere from $100 to $300. And to put that into perspective, in 1924, a Model T cost $295. So literally you could buy a car or you could buy a hunting dog. Now, they weren't all that expensive. I'm sure that some were sold a lot cheaper, but you see a lot of them in that $100 to $300 range. So also today, dogs are expensive. It's a lot to keep up with as well. You've got to keep up with the training and things like that. I don't have the time for that, so I don't hunt with dogs. Is it easier? No. No, it's a lot harder to hunt without dogs. But it can be done, and I've done it many times. The key is to get into the woods and be quiet and know where they're at, know where they're going to be, and have a good light.
Raccoon pelts were actually quite valuable at the time. There was a fashion craze going on, among younger men especially, to wear heavy raccoon fur coats. This also helped with keeping warm in the open cars of the period if you were driving in cooler weather. There was a gentleman named Lenny Russell, and he was in Cardington, Ohio, and he was famous for having a breeding farm, a ranch they called it, where he bred special black raccoons just for their fur. I highly recommend looking up this fellow. His life is very interesting.
So I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about the clothing and gear that I'm going to be using for this hunt this evening. So as far as clothing, hunting equipment was still kind of a fairly new concept. The stuff was fairly expensive, and so for people who weren't really heavy into the sport, they probably weren't buying a lot of hunting related stuff, but they were buying things that they could use for multiple things. So they would buy something that could be used for deer season and squirrel hunting and raccoon hunting and possum hunting and whatever they were hunting. They would still be able to use the same gear. But there wasn't the obsession for having camo for each thing that I'm hunting and having this whole outfit just for hunting. That didn't happen in this period. So we see a mixture of hunting clothes and work clothes very commonly. And remember, when we're doing living history, we want to try to portray what's common, not the exception. So in pursuing the common rural coon hunter, this is what he would have looked like. So I'm wearing a wool buffalo plaid shirt. This is available from Logston & Co., our online store. I'm also wearing the Logston & Co. overalls. This is a 1920s style home sewn sort of overalls. The stuff that you would have made from a pattern that you got out of a magazine or that you sent off for, that your sister, your wife, your mother would have made for you in all likelihood. I've paired that up with the 1907 workman's boots, also from Logston & Co. These actually went on up into the 40s as far as this style, and so this is a perfect everyday shoe that you would use for hunting, for working in, anything except going to church. You would wear something nicer for church, but this would be your everyday shoe, and therefore it would be a good hunting shoe. In addition, I've got my hunting jacket here. So this is an original early 20th century hunting jacket, canvas jacket. I think this is made by Duck's Back. And it's got a couple of pockets here and there. There's pockets of every sort, and then this pocket, the flap of it raises up. This is actually the bottom of this pocket, is the flap that covers the shotgun carrier, shotgun shells. There's also a large game pocket on the inside, and that's great because you can throw your squirrels and rabbits, small game in there, easily carry them, keep your hands free. Now, a raccoon's not going to fit in there, so this is one of those things where it's more useful for some types of hunts than for others. This is something that we're hoping to eventually be able to reproduce and have available on the website, although it's not something that we have available yet. I've also got my wool fingerless gloves. These are also available from Logsdon & Co. And they're just a good all-around warm glove. They keep the back of your hand warm where the veins are, but they leave your fingers available for pulling triggers and handling your gun. So they do a pretty good job of keeping your hand warm under most conditions. In extreme cold, it's not so great, but they do well in most situations. And leave my fingers free. So I'll be using those once it cools off a bit more. And then I've got this hat. This came from Bronson Company. This is their non-stock corduroy cap, and it's really well constructed. I really like the style and the shape and the way that it looks. It's very correct. The only thing I don't like is that on the back side it has a synthetic strap and a plastic adjuster, which I've meant to change and I haven't. But eventually I'll get around to it, hopefully. Now, what I did do as far as alterations is I added this cotton webbing loop on top to hook the back side of my carbide light. And then I built this copper holder and reflector. Everything clamps into that real well, and then that clips onto the bill. And so it's very secure. I can move my head around. It's not going to fall off. I feel confident that it's going to be there when I need it. So that's my primary light. For a secondary light, I'll be probably carrying this Dietz number 2. This lantern's a little bit later than the period we're trying to hit. This is a 1937 lantern, but this style existed in the period, so I'm going to go with it because I don't have an earlier one of this style. Now, the lantern that I really should be using and would like to use is this one. This is an extremely bright lantern. This is a Coleman Quick Light, and this is from about 1919. The only problem here is the generator has quit working, and so I need to get a new generator and install that, and then I can use this lantern again. So unfortunately this lantern is down for the count right now. Otherwise I'd probably carry this as my secondary light because it's a lot brighter than the wick light. And the last piece of our kit is a raccoon call. This is commonly known as a Coon Squaller, and this is very important. It's great when you have dogs. It's even more important when you don't have dogs because this is how you're going to get a coon to come check you out. So they're very curious animals, much like deer. If they hear a noise that's a little unusual or something that they're not quite sure what it is, but they think they know what it is, they'll come check it out. And so this is a good way to get them to come in. Now, if you get online, you'll find all different types of Coon Squallers. I chose this one because it's it's wood, it's very old-fashioned looking. So if you watch videos on YouTube about these, you'll find 100 different ways that people call with these. And I've heard raccoons fighting in the woods, and I can tell you that some of the calls I hear people do not sound anything like raccoons. And I can't say that I'm any good at doing this either. I'm sure mine doesn't quite sound right to a raccoon either, but I've come up with a way that I think sounds pretty good, sounds similar to what I've heard in the woods, and so that's what I like to do. So like with any call, you cup it around your hand, and you're going to use this hand over here to kind of change the pitch as you slide back and forth. Now with this, what you want to do is you want to kind of roll your tongue while you're doing it. And it's really hard to blow and roll your tongue at the same time. So that takes a little bit of practice, but you kind of get it up in the back of your palate. So it's kind of a... So you do that while blowing, while working your hand back and forth here. So it comes out something kind of like this. So with a little practice, it can sound somewhat like a raccoon fighting another raccoon. That's what you want to do. That's going to bring them out of the trees to come check you out, see what's going on. And you can hunt in broad daylight sometimes that way. If you're in an area where there's a lot of raccoon population and a lot of coon traffic going through, sit out there in the broad daylight. Usually not middle of the day, but it could be like it is right now. We're getting close to evening now. And so if the light was still there, you know, you could possibly call something in that way. It takes some effort. If you get a raccoon treed, that's a good time to pull out the call, especially if you don't have dogs with you, to get it to poke its head around the side and see what's going on, see what you're doing, and then that's a good time to draw a bead and shoot. So anyway, good to have one of these in your pocket. So now I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the guns that we're going to use. So the gun that probably is the ideal gun for this hunt would be the Winchester Model 12. This one was made in 1916. This is an all-around great gun. It's 12 gauge, 5-pump shot. This one does have a rod in it for bird hunting, so it only holds 3, including the chamber. But that's for legal reasons. But this gun, unfortunately, is having an issue with the safety, and I don't entirely trust it. And I don't like to hunt. I don't even like to load a gun that I can't trust. So this one needs to go into the shop and get some work done before it's going to be usable for any sort of hunting, especially hunting at night. So we won't be using the Model 12 tonight. Now this is probably the most common gun used in the period. This is the Stevens 22, 1917-ish 22 that you've seen in my other videos. We've done a couple of videos with this now, and it shows up in the squirrel hunt video, as well as there's a video devoted entirely to this gun. It's a great little gun, great 22. If you can get a headshot, this is the thing to use. Unfortunately, I don't see real well in the dark, and so I'm going to opt not to use the 22 because I can't guarantee a headshot with my vision and low light. That's just responsible hunting, guys. It's important to get a clean kill, get it in one shot. You don't want to let an animal suffer. You don't want to have to take a second shot. Even if it's just raccoons, they're varmints, but we still have to have some respect for the life that we're taking and make sure that we're getting a clean shot and giving that animal what it deserves as far as our respect as a hunter. So, because I cannot guarantee a good shot in the dark with the 22, I'm not going to use that. So what I'm going to take is this. This is a Lefevre 16 gauge double barrel shotgun. I love this gun. This is a wonderful, wonderful shotgun. This actual gun was built in 1938, I believe, based on the serial number. But this style came out in the 20s. So it's still appropriate to the period that we're trying to hit. There were plenty of guns like this, and this particular model even existed at that time. So I'm okay using a gun that's newer. It's like a reproduction, but it was, you know, part of the original run of guns. May have had a different butt plate on it in the 20s, but this is a great gun, and this is what I'm going to use. Now, do not use birdshot for raccoons. Don't use a number 6, number 7, number 8, anything like that, because you're not going to kill them with that. You're just going to injure them, and that's not fair to the animal. So I'm going to be using number 4 shot in this because I want to make sure that I get a good kill with the first shot. So that's the stuff. That's what we're going to be using. Now we just got to wait for it to get dark.
told my old coon dog, well, he said bring him back. Run the big hogs over the fence and the little ones through the crack. Marcy had an old coon dog, as blind as he could be. Three to bottom of black on stump, I believe that dog could see. Devil's on the hillside, a sitting in the sun, kicking off back feet for having his fun. Possum up the cinnamon tree, and a raccoon on the ground. The raccoon says, you son of a gun, he shake them cinnamons down. Turtle in the mill pond, a rootin' in the mold. The devil's on the hillside, a swearing he's a hole. Possum up a gum stump, and a raccoon in the holler. Pretty gal at Marcy's house, as fat as she can waller. Whoa, mule, I tell you, whoa, mule, I holler. Tying off that mule's tail, and he'll go through the collar. Whoa, mule. Shoot fly, don't you bother me. Shoot fly, don't you bother me. Whoa, mule, I tell you, whoa, mule, I say, tying off that mule's tail, and he'll run away. Marcy had an old coon dog, as blind as he could be. Three to pot one cold dark night, I believe that dog could see.
In the 1920s, hunting by lantern light was common for raccoon hunters. They would venture out under the moonlight, often around dusk, when raccoons are most active. The carbide headlamp, a staple of early 20th century hunting, emits a faint glow just bright enough to see through the night's shadows. It's a simple device relying on the chemical reaction of calcium carbide and water to produce a steady flame. This light, though dim by modern standards, was all the hunter needed to track his prey. With your eyes adjusted to the dark, it's really surprising just how much light this throws. Certainly, it's enough to look into the treetops. Our hunter's trip is complete. It's been a successful night, and while there are no dogs to help, no team of men to share the spoils, there is a deep satisfaction in the quiet accomplishment of the hunt. For this hunter, as for many in the 1920s, the raccoon hunt was a connection to the past, a tradition that reached back through the decades. The tools may have been a simple double-barrel shotgun, carbide lamp, and sharp eyes, but the experience was timeless. A journey into the woods, guided by history, where the night is full of life and the skill of the hunter is always tested.
As I walked out with Diner the other afternoon, the day could not be finer. Following the food, since I, oh dear, what shall I do? Says she, why, what's the miss with you? Oh dear, oh, following the food,
Well, folks, it's been a grand evening. We've hiked the woods, we've seen some beautiful things, got ourselves a nice raccoon, about 35 to 40 pound range. He's a big boy, so I'm quite pleased with the outcome of the evening. Now it's time to relax a little bit, take our medicine, crawl into bed into this nice cozy hunting cabin. If you've enjoyed this, please give us a like and subscribe. We'll see you down the road.
Highbrow, lowbrow, intermediate, make believe they're all collegiate soon. To do the raccoon. Raccoon coats don't care who's wearing them. Hall room boys will all be sharing them soon. To do the raccoon. Every day you'll have your downs and your ups.